Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are live on Maine's TBD Connection Business Networking Podcast. This is your host, Jake McLaughlin, live at your local mortgage lender, Academy Mortgage in South Portland. Today's guest, we have Geoff and Sue Lamdin with the Lamdin Group representing the Shaklee Company for Maine, an all-natural vitamin and nutrition supplement company whose products are not only healthy, but climate neutral. Not to mention the first company to introduce the multivitamin to the U.S. over 60 years ago. Today we go over some of these products, the history of Shaklee, and their own personal advice for those thinking of running their own business. As we usually do, let's get right to it. So, the first thing I want to get into is you guys brought in some goodies, I see. Mm-hmm. Okay, and Shaklee, basically their main product, which they're very broad in what they do, but their main product is a multivitamin.
Yeah, so the core is a multi. As a company, they really are. The primary product line are nutritional supplements.
Yeah.
Across a broad spectrum.
Yeah.
And I would like to add that it's not just the vitamins, but we do have personal care products. We also have the original Earth Day biodegradable cleaners, and we have a water filter for your refrigerator. So, we have all sorts of inside and out in every room of your house.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, and the last time that we had chatted too, I got a kick out of some of these products you can actually wash your hair with.
You got it.
You can. We do have formally official shampoos,
not
and then we have
official.
unofficial uses. Some of us remember using out hiking and so on, or certainly if you're, here in Maine, we have a lot of people who have their camps are off the grid. They're off of town water and sewer.
Yeah.
And these are products that will help take care of your septic system.
Yeah.
So
No kidding.
it's really
Septic safe.
Septic safe.
We've rescued a few septic systems with these
over
products.
the years.
Huh. I think the beauty too behind using like these all natural supplements is that side effects are very minimal, if any.
Right.
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 You guys work with all age demographics as well, including prenatal, as you explained before.
Yes.
Okay, so can you dive into that a little bit?
Sure. Shaklee, a couple of years ago, developed a free online personal health assessment to help people figure out exactly what your body needs. It's one thing to have a multivitamin, and it's another to put in your health goals and your genetics if you have it, blood test results if you have them. And the algorithms will, millions of them will get to exactly what your body needs at this point in time. It's a snapshot, but it will give some recommendations. And that started out with adults. And so that was really cool. And then a couple of years ago, Shaklee expanded that so that there is now a meology health assessment for kids. And while it's a general multivitamin, multimineral for kids, they love it because every day there's a little packet that they open up and they taste good. They're gummies and, things that kids like. And it has their name on it, and they get to choose the emoji that sits on the packet.
Yeah. And I've always preached too that, for what we do, where you're kind of working for yourself in a way, you have to love what it is that you do. You have to believe in the product.
Right.
And I think the fact that you were a science teacher before doing this makes a lot of sense. Definitely correlates.
Yeah.
Speaking too of like the post-pregnancy depression, I'd actually watched a show. It's new on Netflix, and it's basically Jonah Hill. He's an actor. He hosts it, but it's about his therapist and basically what therapy does for people that suffer from mental illness like depression. And they said that one of the things that they had mentioned was increasing your diet, having a better diet, was an 85% increase in mood elevation.
Yeah.
There's a
Almost
huge
immediate.
amount of science about, and obviously I think, with Shaklee being a supplement company, we sort of kid people, say it's supplements. It's in addition to a good diet, the best diet that you can afford and eat.
Right.
And the goal
Fresh,
is to
whole grain,
mostly vegetables,
fruits and veggies as much as you can.
cleanest sources of protein. We're realistic. I mean, we occasionally like our burger, and we occasionally, barbecue a steak in the summer, and
Right.
but we tend to lean towards, the leaner meats, poultry, fish, and vegetables. So our approach is people aren't fanatics about things. That never sticks. But incremental changes, or what Tom Cleary called atomic habits, change things a little bit at a time. And we found that for most people, including ourselves, that leads to success and long-term improvement.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, too, with the variety of products that you have, where some of it you can eat, you can also drink it, mix it up into a smoothie, it's definitely pretty easy to add into your regimen.
That's what we had for breakfast before
I am addicted to smoothies, yes.
Yeah.
Right. And to add to that, too, I mean, not only does Shaklee have a lot of research, but this isn't a new company. This has been around for some time, hasn't it?
So Shaklee, as Shaklee Products Corporation, was started in 1956 when Dr. Shaklee was 60, and he'd sort of already had a couple of careers, and his wife more or less said, go do something useful. And so he took his kids along, and they started the company. But his research, what he brought to the basis of Shaklee Products, was a career of really looking at and benefiting himself from looking at what Mother Nature has.
Yeah.
And so, what goes in the Shaklee is really the best of Mother Nature combined with the best of science.
Yep.
I think
Safe,
that's really important.
proven, effective, and guaranteed.
I love it. I love it, guys. Now, you guys you're working together for this Shaklee Company.
Yes.
How fun is that?
Prior to this, though, you guys had a unique tale as to how you guys met, right?
We call it our Cinderella story. So there's actually two parts of it. And so I met Sue. We met actually at an environmental education conference in Fairleigh, Vermont, and at a workshop. And Sue said, well, I'd moved back to Vermont from outside of the Boston area.
Yeah.
And she said, well, if you're signed up to do substitute teaching, said, well, if you're ever down substituting in her school, which was the middle school in Hartford, Vermont,
Yep.
Let her know. So that happened, and I did, and she invited me over for dinner, and ostensibly it was for dinner, but it was like, okay, so there's these storm windows.
Yeah, it was October, and it starts to get cold. It's actually already was cold.
Yeah.
I said, would you mind before dinner helping me put on the storm windows? So he said, sure. He said, so do you have some Windex? And I said, well, there's some stuff under the kitchen sink. And I was in the other room, and I heard Geoff say, Basic H? Where did you get that? And turns out, you tell your part of the story.
So I had come across Basic H. I did not know Shaklee made the product when I came across it in the mid-1960s.
By the way, Basic H stands for household cleaner.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's highly concentrated. All you add is water. Dr. Shaklee's philosophy is why sell water? You'll sell the concentrate. But I'd used it in the mid-60s to wash my sleeping bags and other down things because it would not, the cleaner would not dissolve the baffles. And anybody who's had a sleeping bag, especially in that generation, knew that if you used petroleum-based cleaners, which most were then, and too many still are today, it will actually dissolve the materials they use in the baffles that keep the down into its little compartments. And needless to say, having all your down at the bottom of your sleeping bag is bad. So that's how I first came across.
Keeps your toes warm, but not much else. So my part of the story was that I was using Basic H, not an official cleaning purpose, but I love to hike. And I was living in Vermont at the time, and I had really long hair. And if you're hiking in the summer months and you get hot and sweaty, and it's black fly season, you like to, find a stream or a body of water to kind of rinse off. And I knew I didn't want to use my regular shampoo because I knew it was not biodegradable, but I hadn't found a good alternative. And I finally found a product that will remain unnamed, but I didn't care for the smell. It smelled like peppermint. Now, my name is Sue, not Patty. And I just didn't really like the peppermint in my hair. So
Right.
I
Black flies liked it.
Yeah, finally, when I was in the environmental program at UVM, I said to one of my colleagues, one of my classmates, I said, "Isn't there anything else besides that product that's biodegradable?" And he said, "Well, yeah, there's this stuff called Basic H, and it's made by Shaklee. And if you go down on College Street, there's a family that rents canoes and probably would sell you a quart of Basic H." And I said, okay. Well, that was back in the days when it was okay to knock on somebody's door that you didn't know. But anyway, that was 1975, I believe. And I met Geoff in 1979. And I had that same quart under my kitchen sink. And so that's basically our Cinderella story, because the rest is history. You know, we hit it off. We had hit it off when we met at this environmental conference. We recognized we had core values in common. And
now we had Basic H.
And now we had Basic H, too.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And you guys are, pretty much partners in crimes. You're working together.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. I do the planning, she does the execution, or the other way around.
Yeah.
So, I bring some entrepreneurial experience and capabilities
I was
to
going
the
to
table.
say, this isn't kind of the only avenue that you've made for yourself. You've run other companies prior to this, correct?
Yep. So, without diving too deeply in, because really Shaklee's our primary gig together,
Yeah.
is I am I guess I call a clean tech junkie. So I enjoy invention and innovation, and particularly in the clean tech spaces, things that support and sustainability and decarbonization. And Shaklee is clearly part of that. I mean, just sort of a tag back in there. Shaklee is the first climate neutral company in the world.
Yep.
They're one of the largest climate neutral companies in the world, and
How
that
cool
came
is
in
that?
the year 2000. So they started on that venture in the early mid 1990s.
Yeah.
And we were honored to be able to actually do some presentations about that effort to organizations such as the Appalachian Mountain Club. And to date now, we have just reintroduced, we haven't reintroduced, but there was an organization that was formed in that period of time called the Climate Neutral Network. So any person who works with a company that's looking at sustainability that wants to be certified, so there's a bunch of hurdles, this is not easy to accomplish, would get their certification eventually from the Climate Neutral Network or like organization. So there was an amazing group of people involved in that.
Yeah.
Sort of a who's who in early environment sustainability. Shaklee was one of those companies. Another company called Interface was part of that. We were invited to a showing of a film about the history of Interface, which now is also climate neutral. But even more important, Interface has taken that to what they call Beyond Zero. So now we've brought that back to Shaklee, and we actually just saw the follow-up email yesterday, and the excitement is palpable. It's just
It's
so.
really, really
What
cool.
is- what is
we've
Beyond
done
Zero?
a lot of. Sorry, that.
What is Beyond Zero?
So Beyond Zero is a point where not only are your operations net zero carbon,
Okay.
but they actually go beyond. So Interface is sort of like an ad for Interface, but it's very exciting, and they're one of the first sort of manufacturing companies to do this.
Yeah.
Is in the process of making their newest carpet tiles and carpet. They actually uptake carbon. So they're actually, I'm not sure that technically it's sequestering carbon, but they're taking carbon as part of the materials process, and it gets locked into their carbon. So there's a net beyond zero. So it's not just zero carbon, it's they're removing carbon.
Negative carbon, if you will.
So this is where Shaklee's at. Shaklee's starting this. So we talked about the meology in the packets. Important that everybody knows that all those packets are recyclable, compostable. So
Wow.
that,
Yeah.
or
I
if
know,
you're
and
like
it-
us and have a wood stove, you take the recyclable cardboard and use it as fire starter. But
So Shaklee isn't perfect,
Yeah.
but there is a strong commitment to environmental sustainability.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm excited because we were invited to the showing of this new film, that we have connected those two companies, and they're going to help us go to the next step. I'd like to say, if you decide that you would like to try Shaklee out and you're willing to be, on our team, so to speak, you're stuck with us for life. Because why? Because we care about you and helping you get, whatever you need. And as I said, there's something for every room of the house and inside and outside your body. So it's a good place to be.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell too that, someone with an entrepreneurship background where you've been in charge of running, different projects, and now you're working with Shaklee, that there's definitely something that showed to you, value. And I think that's because you see and believe in this product. And for young entrepreneurs too, like myself, we look up to the older generations, kind of see where they're headed.
Careful.
Well, yes. So, there a variety of things are important when you're evaluating, in our case, a business opportunity.
Yeah.
And, this is an opportunity that is open to other people, but we do bring both ourselves, the Shaklee greater organization, and then perhaps a little bit more my background in helping mentor and build companies, including others of my own, is the ability to help people sort of wade through some of those really scary challenges.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. It certainly is important. Most importantly is, as a customer, somebody what you need is most important. It's not what we need.
Right.
So
Exactly.
it's always customer first, customers.
Mm-hmm.
So-
And anyone can become this ambassador and represent the brand as well, correct?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that is fun because that's
Yeah.
the team building. As a science teacher, I always had kids working in teams, so this is just like an extension of that.
Yeah.
And I think what we love is helping other people figure out whether it's something for them or not.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody.
No.
Some people go, oh, I don't like to sell. Well, you know what? These products sell themselves.
Right.
And all we have to do is help people recognize how different Shaklee is.
Try them out.
Yeah,
Right.
try
So,
it, you like it.
End of statement. That's a pretty high bar for somebody like that to make that kind of comment.
Yeah.
And we also know that the Food and Drug Administration has elevated Shaklee to the top of the supplement industry, and so they actually have worked on and off to kind of look at some other companies that are putting labels on without any research.
Okay.
Yeah, and so Shaklee has a high position with the FDA for sure.
Good. So for anyone that's looking to join Shaklee, what kind of structure internally is it like? I mean,
So it's so we are, sales is how money moves, right?
Yeah.
It's the comfort. I mean, anybody who's in a business knows that sales is where the money moves.
Yeah.
The key is this something you can get excited about? And if it is, you can sell anything, right?
Right.
But not everybody's excited about everything evenly. So that's important. We use a multi-level marketing structure, which has I would say, a deservedly bad reputation over time because of the way a lot of companies have abused it. That being said, all it is a revenue model. Okay, it's not a controlling model. It's the way the money moves, and if you're using it ethically and legally, it's as good or as bad as any other model based on who uses it. So some people will look at me and I'll go, well, in the housing crash and the market mess in the 2013 era, there was more money lost by companies irresponsibly than even all of the bad decisions in the MLM business. What has Wall Street done for you recently? So it's all in the context of the way you ask the question. So we have no trouble. We've never had any trouble with the revenue model. It's a revenue model.
Yeah.
And it's a particularly attractive one because of some of the benefits it can provide to somebody who's starting off early in a business, regardless of where they want to end up and what their goals are. And that's, what Sue was referencing, is that we're in a position to help them sort of sort out the ramifications of starting a business. I've done enough mentoring on business startups generally to help figure out, well, what are the questions you need to be asking? Because it's not in anybody's interest to get too far down the path and something that's not right for them.
And I would like to also add, our group has one of the best reputations in the company, the New England group. We have an amazing set of leaders that are here to support us, and one of the things we love is that people don't compete. I keep hearing about some other companies that, people are stepping on each other's toes, and it's not like that at all. We help each other. We get together on Zooms pretty much 6 days a week.
Right.
And we have what are called power hours, and we help each other to solve challenges that might arise with not knowing how to approach someone, or whatever the case might be. So we have the power hours, and we have a wonderful set of people at the home office who are amazing. I cannot believe how much Shaklee has grown. We're going on, are you ready for this, 4 decades next year that we will have been associated with Shaklee.
The two of us.
Yeah,
Wow.
Jeff and I.
Wow.
And I just know that the value here is that we are Shaklee's marketers. They don't advertise. We are the advertisers.
Right.
Right? We are the people to spread the goodness around. And we just want people to be able to thrive. There's so much malnutrition and undernutrition in the world these days, and it doesn't have to be that way. So Roger Barnett, our wonderful CEO, his goal is to improve everyone's nutrition worldwide. Now,
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I always call, our business, which is strictly referral business, is the truest form of business, right?
Right.
I mean, you so heavily have to, believe in the product and understand the product, which you guys obviously do. And to tie that into what you had mentioned before, which is like, you're not competing with really anyone. I mean, it's kind of the same for me as well, where it's like, if there's another mortgage guy or another loan officer with a different bank or whatever, we're not going to compete because we believe that there's plenty of business to go around.
There is.
It's all about who you're working with,
Right.
and does the product suit that individual.
Well, again, the TBD philosophy, I think, is one reason it brought us all together. Is it's about building a relationship. So if you're walking down Main Street, there's multiple choices. You're going to end up, hopefully, if you're looking for a mortgage in your case, or you're looking for an attorney, or whatever the service or product might be, you may look at 2 or 3 different points. The odds are you're going to end up doing business with the person or the people that you connect most with.
Yeah.
All other things being reasonably equal.
Right. And it seems like Shaklee is a pretty personalized form of business.
We're a services servant-based business philosophically.
Oh, and the home office people, they have been there forever.
Yeah, we have the
it's really neat. And people, in fact, one of the reasons Roger bought the company back in 2004, because he had been looking for like 5 years at a company to purchase. And one of the things that really stood out to him was the longevity of the people in the field. We are true blue because we've got the best stuff.
Yeah.
We have one of the lowest turnovers in any kind of retail industry, no matter what the business model is.
Okay.
And as what Sue was saying, is that the turnover at the home office, the employees of the company, I can't remember, but it's like 25 years average. Don't quote me totally on that, but it's a really long time, highly unusual in any business.
Yeah.
And that's because, from the get-go, when the company sort of opened its doors in 1956, I think I said, Dr. Shaklee gave ownership, in a sense, of everything went on to the employees. When we were manufacturing products, which we did for many, many years, Sue visited the plant. And if you saw something that you weren't sure whether it was right or wrong, you had an obligation to stop the line.
Okay.
That was the expectation, is that, that quality control and safety was just absolutely paramount.
They even have a lab in the distribution warehouse in Ohio. They don't do it on every product, but obviously everything's been checked. And in fact, we haven't even talked about this, but the number of quality and purity checks that goes into every ingredient, huge numbers. Do you remember
It's not like
the number?
100, it's like tens of thousands of tests every year.
Every year, and then they do it again in the distribution lab to make sure it's still okay. They've actually done a study on a Vital E, which is the original multivitamin, multimineral, that had been sitting on somebody's shelf for over 5 years, and it was opened, but not finished. And they checked the potency of those tablets, 95%.
And these are products that are 100% natural. When we go what we call beyond organic. So people, well, what is that? Organic's good. Of course it's good. Organic, however, defines, this is somewhat simplistic, the way you grow something. Beyond organic takes it to the next level, which is you then harvest it. Well, where has this plant been growing? So a lot of organic in North America comes from the Fertile Valley in California, which happens to have a major, diesel railroad line on either side of it, and major superhighways. It's California, you have to go north to south.
And they're using water to irrigate.
So you've got all of this emissions landing on your plant. So one of the steps in Shaklee's raw materials development is you got to clean the plant. You got to go and look at that. We also look for microplastics. We've been doing that longer than most people.
Yeah.
And you can't control everything, and you can't get rid of everything, but you definitely bend over backwards to do everything you possibly can.
Yeah.
Along those lines, in the personal care products, these are things you put on your skin, or in your hair. And we know that something like 95% of what you put on your skin or hair is absorbed within several minutes. So you want to be really sort of thoughtful about when you wash your hands with turpentine, as we all used to do when you're painting. In Shaklee's case, the ingredients that go into their personal care products all have to be proven safe first. There are approximately 2,500 ingredients that are permitted by the FDA to go into personal care products that have never been vetted or not thoroughly vetted for safety, and yet they're permitted.
And Shaklee won't use those.
We won't use those.
Okay. Good to know.
Until they're proven safe.
Prove it safe first. Don't prove it safe after the fact.
Yeah. No, I've definitely heard of some horror stories of some big pharma companies where it's, they have all this money, floating around in different departments, but research and development sometimes is very much lacking.
Well, and that's what I like. Shaklee's a science company, and if
take it from the science teacher.
I know
Science first.
it's been fun to watch the evolution. Sometimes the marketing people kind of get the upper hand, and then Shaklee science says no. It's fun to watch the evolutionary process. Yeah.
I think just given your guys' history of not just with Shaklee, but with other entrepreneur type aspects, for anyone that's motivated and they want to work for themselves one day, Shaklee, where they're kind of given the opportunity to at least have a product to get started with. What other advice would you give to someone that's thinking about maybe becoming an ambassador? What kinds of obstacles should they expect, and how should they prepare to get over those obstacles?
Well,
good question.
It's a really good question, and since everybody's different, people start at different points.
Yeah.
I'll make it somewhat simple here. I brought the flyer. So we have something called, throw it to the camera, there we go. It's called the Ready Set Wellness, and this is a place where we ask everybody to start.
Yeah.
So if you're really just looking for a product, or I'm trying to improve my wellness, or at least I want to have more awareness of it, you take that meology assessment, it makes some recommendations, and you start with something called Ready Set Wellness. And it's a core place to start There's a booklet, there's a
Yep.
video.
We can send it. We have these apps on our phone now, which is really awesome, and they have gotten really good
Yes.
at helping for social media posts and
Yeah.
so forth. And we'd send you the video and the booklet on
yeah.
your phone, and you can go from there and
So this
ask
is the
us
place.
questions.
So we ask everybody, so now if you're interested in becoming an ambassador,
Yeah.
again, you're going to start here.
Okay.
But then there's a whole program. A lot of it's right on that app, which is on the phone, so it's hard to see. But it's a training program, and it complements. So it's a
all
core
there.
foundational training, just like you probably had when you started with Camity Mortgage.
Yep.
Or somebody starts with a retail store. There's a training program. It's the same thing. It's basics, and then we complement that, and then we have our larger organization to complement that. Questions that somebody would need to ask themselves is, what's your tolerance for failure? What's your risk adverse tolerance? So, if you don't like failure, and I'm not saying you're going to fail in any one particular enterprise, but there will be days that don't go as well as other days. Right?
That's true for any
I can
business,
100%
right?
agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and even when you're working for somebody else.
Yeah.
But there is a different mindset between being a self-employed or entrepreneur or intrapreneur. So Shaklee's more like intrapreneur. You don't have to invent the product.
Right.
But when you're an employee, so whether you're a W-2 employee or a 1099 employee, you have somebody sort of basically directing what you're going to do. Your expectations are more often than not set, hopefully in concert with your employer, but all too often they set the expectations and the goals for you. When you're self-employed and you own the business or represent as an ambassador, you have to set those goals. And so part of the challenge that all of us face is what are reasonable goals? What are reasonable expectations?
Well, and that's why this group, these power hours that we have, if you're not feeling it that day or something's bugging you, we can talk it through from our, comfort of our own homes. And that's what's really neat is this is you can do Shaklee on the beach if you want.
Yeah.
You can do Shaklee on top of a mountain, and as long as you have your phone and an internet connection, you're good to go.
So questions be, so obviously Shaklee's a people business. Okay, if you don't like people, probably not the right business for you.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Well, and there's a lot of people that would prefer their current work, they're just in front of people way too much.
Yeah.
And so they want a place where they can go. So maybe computer programming. Whatever it might be. There are other options and other opportunities. And sometimes people will try out being self-employed and they find it's not for them. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But it's really, you didn't know that unless you tried the other thing.
Right.
I mean, we're there to be as supportive as possible, but we are here to help you grow and change. But we're also here to help you recognize where you're comfortable and where you, in this particular point in time, are going to be the most productive for yourself.
Yeah, and if I may add, a few people have said Shaklee is like the best self-improvement program out there.
Well, I can believe it given the low turnover rate.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we were always looking at ways to kind of maximize what we do, to simplify it, to make it easy for customers to really find the benefits. And sometimes they love it so much, and then they say, oh my God, I'm spending, X amount of dollars, and is there any way I can get these for less? And the answer is yes, and we'll help you do that.
If you want.
Sometimes people just want to have like a small buying group so that their products get paid for by everyone's volume.
Right.
Other times it's like, oh yeah, I've just left this business and that business and that business, and I don't want to do that anymore. I want to be self-employed, and we can help people do that. We have helped people do that.
One of the things, again, going back to TBD, many of the businesses in our organization, right, are local businesses, and we really want to support local businesses.
Yep.
This is another way to do it, not necessarily our products. So I will say that the blueberries do come from Maine that are in our products.
Fun
So
fact.
there's a little
Fun
bit of
fact.
a tie there. We're excited and pleased and proud about that.
Well, what's also nice too is in a state like Maine where everyone wants to have a guy or have a gal for this and that, right? Not everyone wants to just call into a call center hotline.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's so much more endearing to just have a direct number for Jeff or for Sue, right? And they can ask a lot of questions, such as maybe a payment arrangement, or more specific advice. I'm sure, or more just research advice.
Yep.
Where they could get that probably in a 20-minute phone call with you, as opposed to digging through it online for an hour, comparing it to other products and such, right?
Right?
Absolutely.
Are you a person who likes to pick up the phone and talk to someone to get an answer, or are
yes,
you? Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah.
I'm very much a straight shooter.
So for Shaklee, I mean, for us in particular, and many people in Shaklee, we're a high-touch business.
Yeah.
At the same time, we have these incredible tools of today, apps on the phone, and so the technology and social media, and those are all tools.
Yeah.
And commerce, using a broader term, is really at the end of the day always between people. And so we emphasize that more heavily. And it's been a challenging few years. People was like Zoom
Right.
or Microsoft Teams, right?
Right.
But way better than the phone, which was way better than texting. And so we have sort of a hierarchy of contact. And so if you enjoy getting out there, getting, as a friend of ours would say, belly button to belly button, nose to nose with somebody in all of the best respects.
Yeah.
This is a great business because you're building those relationships over time. I mean, our Shaklee customers are what we call our Shaklee family.
Yeah.
Many of them, we're on a first name basis. We've known a lot of our customers for 20, 30 years. Mm-hmm. It's not about how much they buy. We really don't care. We just want to make sure that they know what's available and that the products they're using are meeting their highest level of expectations.
Yeah.
And to that extent, we have, of course, the Shaklee helps us out with all that. Everything's 100% guaranteed, period.
Yeah.
We've had one.
The multivitamin, multimineral that is known as Vital E was originally formulated by Dr. Shaklee. Are you ready for this?
What do we got?
In 1915. And he called the formulation vitalized minerals, the very first multivitamin, multimineral in North America. Dr. Shaklee, 1915.
Yep.
So
That's crazy. There's also a book too on the story.
there's a couple of people have written books about the Shaklee story, and Dr. Shaklee was, let's say, a minister of nature.
Yeah.
I mean, sort of a non-denominational minister, and he wrote a number of books. One was called Thoughtsmanship, which is just
Wonderful.
an amazing book of philosophy. So some people will recognize, again, Tom Cleary's work.
He has a way with
Shireen's
words.
work, and even ecumenical writings.
This
and if you read
is a wonderful
Dr.
little
Shaklee's
booklet. So
books,
when you're sitting on an airplane
even
or
the short
someplace,
version of Thoughtmanship,
when you
but
have to,
I think I
kill
have
some
here.
time, it just makes you really calm.
So Thoughtsmanship, throw it to the camera.
It's not real unless the camera sees it.
It's just the highlights, the five. These are universal truths. And I think that brings something else we bring to both our customers, but importantly to people who are exploring or building their ambassador, their business, is that we are drawing our expertise, not from but from the greater world, the writers.
There's quite a bit of R&D, research and development that's taken place with Shaklee. Clearly, I mean, there's a lot of health benefits and variety of products to work with too, and you've kind of given people that want to work for themselves a good starting place. You have a good product, you have service that's in line with the quality of the product, and then you also have mentoring as well for people that want to get started. Things like your Power Hour, where if they're down in the dumps one week, they have kind of an hour to set aside and kind of converse with people doing a similar role. I think that's pretty cool. As far as getting started goes, I had briefly looked at if I wanted to do like a nutrition supplement, like the smoothie, right? The link that you had sent over to me, basically that takes me to the website, And then there's
Right.
like a small quiz that I take that kind of picks the product
That's
out
that
for me.
meology.
Okay.
And it's, again, we said is roughly 7 minutes. It's free.
Okay.
You can take it as often as you want. It will make specific recommendations based on the answers to the questions. Sue pointed out there are, something like 100 million different possibilities, so it's pretty personalized to
Yeah.
you. We can easily, email or text or messenger you that link. And it would be a short video on the Ready, Set, Wellness program and actually the digital version of this booklet. And those then lead you to that meology link as well.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
that's the simplest way, and getting a hold
Yep.
of us is easy. We're, lamdingroup.com.
Awesome. Awesome. And when you started this, was this like your only, like your sole source of income, or were you also doing
no.
teaching on the side? No.
No.
Okay.
No.
No.
So you definitely make your own schedule as you go through this.
Sue
do.
has 43 years in education prior,
I know.
not just in the classroom, but, I've mentored companies. She's taught teachers how to teach.
Right, and so the hardest thing for me after I, as I like to say, I didn't really retire. I graduated finally from the 7th grade. I taught science in 7th grade. But the hardest part for me was figuring out what to do first. Because for 43 years, I was told where to be and when.
Yeah.
And so kind of building my schedule. Now we call it habit stacking, so that you have a routine, if you will, in the morning especially, so that you get everything in line, you know what you're going to do, you've written your gratitudes, which we do every morning in a book, and that is so wonderful. We have our smoothies, we take our vitamins, we play bananagrams while we're having breakfast, and then we say, okay, so in this block of time, we're going to contact our Shaklee friends or follow up or whatever, and that's so rewarding.
You can't leave out the dogs. At 11:30, they sort of
yes.
finally say it's time to go for a walkie. And so we luckily where we live, we can go out back. There's something like 1,000-something acres, and
Yeah.
we have short walks and loops to ones that are a couple 3 miles, and
Right.
so that's almost every day our midday
Yeah. And
exercise activity.
so sometimes the power hours are in the morning,
Yeah.
and like on Monday morning, it's organization time for us.
Yeah.
No one really wants to hear about taking care of their health on Monday morning when they're trying to do everything else, right? So, but we have some late afternoon power hours, we have some evening power hours, and then we have a Saturday morning power hour that we're in charge of. And it's really helpful to have that habit stacking, because if you've been an employee for as many years or even a fraction of that as I was, organizing your time is a new experience.
Right.
And so that's what we're helping other people who realize they'd like to get involved with Shaklee because they love it and want to help their friends, and helping them to organize their time. And I think more and more as people are working from home, this is something you can do on the side to begin with.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We'll help anyone who wants to, be involved in any way, because
Certainly, that's the way almost everybody starts. We started that way.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I think
yeah.
about the world we're in now too, and I feel like health and wellness is becoming much more, there's much more awareness towards that.
Thankfully. It's refreshing and wonderful to see that, because the nature of conversations has changed a lot.
Yeah.
There's
Right.
a much greater receptivity to those conversations.
And certainly in the years of COVID, people were like really laser focused on trying to stay well and not get COVID, especially as we're finding out with some of the things that happen with long COVID and that sort of thing. So,
Yeah.
To boost yourself up, that just feels good to be able to help people do that.
Yeah. Did you guys see this become more popular from COVID?
I would say that, the first thing we notice is there's this greater awareness of, it's my health.
Right.
And so that then started engaging more conversations about, well, what can I do? And I think it's very important to understand that Shaklee's a wellness company. We help somebody build wellness, build their health, build the basics. We don't fix things. Okay, so there's definitely a space for your doctor. Okay, or your nurse practitioner. I mean, it's really, really important to make that distinction. We can be very supportive. I have a PCP who's extremely well Ivy League trained, Ivy League med school, and he's all over what I'm doing. Yeah. He says, you just make my job that much easier. And what did he say? He says, your calendar age is far in excess of your actual age. So I was like, okay, that's a big compliment. I'll take that. Right. And anybody can get there. I mean, you still have limitations of genetics and budget, and these are very real things. But we have obviously a range of tools and products, and the desire to help somebody fit where it works for them.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I think you know your role very well, which is basically you're there to mitigate basically potential health problems later on down the road. And if someone has questions about, well, I have this problem, you can address that as we have something for that, or if it sounds like it's out of our expertise, you also have great referral sources as well.
And we have to be careful to not say that anything will prevent or take care of any particular ailment. We can talk about our own stories, which obviously we like to do.
And we do have some products that have approved FDA claims.
So basically, I think to wrap up here, we're here to help anyone who wants to engage with us to thrive. And it really is a good feeling. I don't know how to say it other than this is a wellness company that you can feel proud of, and not be concerned that there's anything in there that's going to be harmful. That we do good things for the environment. In fact, we didn't even talk about we have a philanthropic arm called Shaklee Cares. And that was started by somebody in the field in Florida after Hurricane Andrew. So we help people who've been, forced out of their homes from hurricanes and earthquakes and tornadoes and all those things.
Well, and on top of that,
we also now have an agreement with Vitamin Angels, so that anytime those Meology Kids packets are purchased, there's a donation that goes to serve underprivileged kids with some liquid multivitamins that are needed for their health.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you guys definitely do a lot, and I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you so much.
Anytime someone wants to talk to me about natural supplements, I'll make sure I'm listeading to a science teacher and also someone that has a history of entrepreneurship
we like
thinking.
To say, or Shaklee likes to say that we are the leading natural wellness company in North America, and it's something you have to earn and you have to keep. And you've heard sort of the list of things that differentiate us, science. And research, which is, we're far and beyond, as my dad once told me. He says, you do more research on your products than most drug companies do on theirs. I don't know how true that is, but he would know, since that was his world. But mostly we have fun. So, we have things for the urchins who want to do that deep science dive. But I think, as importantly, there are more people who are like, does this work? Is this something that I personally can do? How easy can you make this? Right. And I think we can address that very, very effectively and well for them, so that they're enjoying the benefits.
I love it.
Live and thrive.
Live and thrive, right? All right, guys. I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you so much, Jake.
Thanks a lot.